welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm so excited to be here and that you're actually here watching me. So for this little introductory video, I thought I'd do a Q3 wrap of everything that I read in Q3 of this year. So that was July, August and September. I read 15 books in total. Wow, I read 12, DNF'd 3, which is actually a lot for me. I didn't think I'd DNF that many in a quarter, but alas, I did. So I thought I'd go through everything that I read, my thoughts and opinions, because obviously they matter, and whether I guess I would recommend them or not. Let me write that in my notes actually. I do have my trusty Mac with me here today because I don't know about you, but I tend to forget an entire plot of a book as soon as I finished it. I just don't feel like it absorbs in my mind. But I do take quite thorough notes of my books, and especially if I've enjoyed them. Sometimes if I really viscerally hate a book, it does sit at the forefront of my mind to tell people not to read it, or equally if I've really loved a book. The first book I read in Q3 was Wild Love by Elsie Silver. That was an e-reader book because I ran out of hours on Spotify and Audible to listen to books, and I did not want to buy another book and I didn't want to buy more hours, and I thought what I can do is put the Audible Assist on Kindle Unlimited, and that is exactly what I did. The voice is a bit monotonous. I did struggle with that, but it's okay, I got through. So Wild Love by Elsie Silver was unfortunately a 2-star book for me. Just as an overarching plot point for the book, it follows a girl called Rosie who lives in a city of some sort, and basically comes back to her father's ranch. Is it a ranch? Anyway, comes back to her hometown and starts working for a boy that she grew up with. And it basically follows their romance, his stuff that's going on in his life. Surprise, he's got a daughter that he doesn't know from a sperm bank. I don't know if that's a spoiler. I don't feel like that's a spoiler, but yeah, basically it follows them and how they fall in love and all the rest of it. Unfortunately, I felt like the plot was just a bit lackluster. It was a bit boring. There was some exciting parts in it, but in the long run it was just not a groundbreaking romance. And I know there's only so many ways that you can write a love story, but I feel like could have been better. But I'm no Shakespeare, so who am I to say anything, right? The only reason that this book got a 2nd star was because of Cora and Ford's relationship. So Cora is Ford's daughter, and I really liked the way that they interacted. I really liked Cora's personality. I felt like her difficulty growing up was captured really well, so that actually did deserve an extra star. But other than that, would I recommend reading this book? No. Do you want something easy and quick to read? Go ahead. I think this actually took me 2 months to read because I was reading other stuff in between and I was not that interested in this plot point. So not a recommendation, but do what you want, I guess. The next book I read was Empire of Storms by Sarah J Maas. This was a reread because every year I go through a phase of wanting to reread the Throne of Glass series. This was it was a 6-star book because I just love it so much. It's actually my favourite in the series. I just really can't get enough. Basically just continues to follow Aylin's life. And I don't feel like I can give an overview on this book actually. I'm gonna withdraw. It's book 6. It's book 6 in the series. Fantastic book. It is a 6-star book. It's such a good read. I know it's the series for some people is a bit scary to get into because it's an 8-book series. However, I actually don't feel like 8 books is enough for what I went through reading this. I feel like maybe I needed another 8 because it was so good, and I wish if I was to get memory loss for anything, this would be the book, the series that I would go to again and again and again if I had the memory of a goldfish, for example, to read. My thoughts, 2 thumbs up. My recommendations, go read Throne of Glass if you haven't already. And if you have read it, go and reread it because I know you enjoyed it, so crack on. The next book I read was Hot to Go by Kristen Bailey, which was an arc off of NetGalley. This was my first book that I read of Kristen Bailey's, and she really set the bar high for herself, and she's never disappointed me since actually. I've read loads of her books since, and they've all been fantastic, so highly recommend the author. So Hot to Go follows Susie and Charlie, who are two teachers that have a little bit of a shit summer, I would say, and basically it brings them together of them starting to work in a new school. But before this, they went on holiday and they actually met each other and had totally different names, where Susie pretended to be French and Charlie pretended to be Spanish, and it's basically all about them coming back together because they couldn't like get in touch after the holiday, and it follows like their growing romance. Oh, this book, it was just so good. I loved it so much. I love the characters. I feel like it's so quintessentially British, like capturing British summers, British jokes, like children in the British schooling system. It just, oh, it was so good. I highly recommend it. Fun summer read. Maybe not now because it's like October, but next summer, fantastic summer read, should be on top of your TBR, especially if you want to like proper get a feel for like a British vibe, like what it's like to live in the UK, especially in the summer. Absolutely go for it. Absolutely fantastic. Loved it. Absolutely. A lot of absolutes. I then read Thread or Alive by RC, or Ray, who's Tequila Book Club on Instagram, which was a book about a Henley shirt that becomes sentient and basically tries to kill this girl. It was fantastic, and every time that I think or I read the word Henley in a book now, I think of this book in particular, and that shirt might come off that man's body and kill somebody. To be honest, Ree just does live rent-free in my mind, as does this book, and I just think everybody should read it, and it's a fantastic wee book for you to up your Disney Channel to up your reading goal if you haven't met that already. I have, so thanks, Ree. Anyway, the next book I read was The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. How I loved this book. So this was my first book of Rachel Gillig's. I've had is it The Shepherd King, the duology, on like my bookshelf forever, and I'm just reading it now and I'm loving it so much. But The Night and the Moth was my first Rachel Gillig book, and again she set the bar bloody high for herself, and again she has met it. So that was a 6-star book also. So the book follows a girl who is named Six for the meantime, and it's all about how she divines for the abbess and can basically predict futures of like kings, or I guess I think it is for whoever wants their future read. But anyway, she predicts a future for this king, and he has a knight called Rory, and all of her friends like start to go missing. So it's all about how she basically leaves the abbess and is trying to find her friends. And this book has one of the most amazing side characters I've ever read. I love the gargoyle. Like, he has buried himself in my little heart and he doesn't even exist. But I love the gargoyle so much. He was such an incredible character to read, like the perfect cut for comedy and like a really serious moment, but at the same time just like a really heartwarming character. Oh, he was so well written. I literally can't get enough. And I'm not gonna lie, towards the end of this book I thought this is going to be like a 4-star read, because I did not at first enjoy the ending. I feel like the boss fight was just a bit quick, and I was like, we've defeated that person very quickly. Alas, it actually got worse, and for that it gained the extra 2 stars because it was actually harrowing how that book ended, and I'm pissed off, I'm scared, and I'd like to apologise to Rachel Gillig for telling her that her ending was resolved too quickly, because I was very wrong. So again, highly recommend the book. It was just absolutely fantastic. Fantastic is clearly my favourite word at the moment in my little dictionary. So fantastic, highly recommend. I then read The City of Lies and Legends by Kayla Edwards, which was a book 3 in the House of Devils series, which is free on Kindle Unlimited and it's getting published by Penguin. Woo! I love this series so bloody much. I really struggled to get into like futuristic fantasy. Is it called futuristic fantasy? they have like phones and shit. I really loved Crescent City, and since Crescent City, it's like there's been like an itch in the back of my mind and I've not been able to scratch it. But these books have scratched that itch. I love this series so much, and this book broke me in many ways. The characters, again, I don't feel like I can give like an overview of what's going on, because basically the characters just don't get a fucking break. Shit's gone down and it just keeps going downhill and downhill and downhill, and somehow when you think it cannot get worse, it's like Sod's Law kicks in and it does get worse. Heartbreaking in the best of ways, but such a good series. I highly recommend it. It's absolutely incredible, and I don't feel like it gets spoken about enough. I feel like she does not get the zhuzh around her that she should, and she should get the zhuzh. So read it. It's a really good book. I just feel like there's always just a faint glimmer of hope, and as you think, oh my god, we're getting there, it just gets yanked away. And I really love that in a book. I love being emotionally scarred, and that is what this book gives me. So highly recommend. That was a 5-star read. I then had a little knackering for a longer book series, so what better than Ice Planet Barbarians. I have started my alien lover journey, and my Mac has just died. A bit of a situation, girls. My Mac died and I can't do without my notes, so if my camera angle looks weird, it's because I was scrambling for a charger. Bear with me here. It was a really good book. I feel like it covers like really important topics, considering it's just like an alien romance. Basically, first of all, it was a 3-star book. So it follows a girl who gets kidnapped by aliens in the middle of the night, lands on this alien planet, and basically is trying to help her friends because they're all dying in this freezing cold, and meets this alien man who is actually her alien mate, and it's all about they can't really communicate, and she's trying to be like, let's go save my friends, and he's trying to be like, let's go to camp and have children with me because my population's dying. When you put it that way, it just sounds a bit weird, but honestly, it is a really good book. My thoughts, I was pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed it. I didn't think I would love it as much as I did, but it was well written, it was easy to follow, had good banter. I had a good time, and it's a 31 book commitment, so it itches that scratch. Would I recommend it? Yeah, I would. I feel like everybody needs to broaden their horizons. I feel like everybody has fun reading fantasy or romancy, and I feel like people just don't talk enough about the monster books. It's time. Rise up, girls, because you're missing out on a whole bunch of fun. So again, I recommend. Thumbs up. The next book I read was an ARC read from NetGalley, which was The Beast Sweet Berry by D.L. Taylor. So this book follows I think she's a princess called Marcella, and basically she has a unique sense of magic where any animal that she fairly kills gets like absorbed into her. Pretty crazy stuff, and it's like really unique magic in my opinion. So basically her dad is making her kill all of these animals, and basically she's building like an animal army, and spoiler alert, it's going to be an animal army. Basically her dad tricks her into needing to kill a human to basically see if she can build up a human army. It's all about her and a boy called Silver, who has got like his own agenda going on. He doesn't like the royal family, and it's all about them like trying to help each other out. She's like completely blindsided to what he's trying to do, and he kind of starts feeling quite bad. It's actually like a really interesting book. So that was a 3-star read. It was like a YA novel, like there wasn't any super steaminess, but I kind of didn't mind. I feel like it was really well written. It was interesting. Again, it was just a little bit too YA for me, but again, I would actually recommend it as a book. So Beast Sweet Berry by D.L. Taylor. Put that on your list. I then read Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. I've been meaning to read Twilight for years now, and this September I was like, that's me. it's my turn to read Twilight. I was a die-hard Edward girly. I loved Edward, Team Edward all the way. I had the merch, I had the blankets of 3 of them on there. I loved that fandom, you get me? But this book, I did not love it. It was a 2-star read. I felt like it was written by like a 14-year-old girl, and the things that don't add up to me now is like, I see people reread this book or this series every autumn, and I'm like, I get it, but just watch the film. The films are, I feel overwhelmed by saying that the film's better than the
I promise, like, and
I'm like losing my mind saying that the film's better than the book, but in this case the film was so much better than the book. Bella is a horny girl, and it's not. Like, I just feel like it was really explicit. Yeah, I'm in actual shock. I did feel like I ticked off something very important for myself, as in like satisfying 12-year-old me like reading these books, but God, I am glad that I did not read this at 12 years old, because that would have just been like a bit too much for me. Yeah, I just feel like I satisfied 12-year-old me, and that was the only reason that it got 2-star actually. Otherwise it would have been a 1-star. Felt quite overwhelming to read actually, and I didn't know whether I want to carry on. I will carry on with the rest of the series, as I feel like maybe as a hate read, but I also feel like maybe it will get better because like she would have grown. Don't know though, obviously correct me if I'm wrong, because I might be very wrong, and that's okay. I'm never wrong. I then read Broken Country by Claire Leslie Hall. This was actually a bit of a, what's it called? I'm trying to say red herring, but it's not a red herring. It was a bit out of my depth, to be honest. I'll go with that, because it's a thriller and like historical like fiction, and that's like really not up my street. However, my friend at work read it and she was like, oh, I saw an influencer cry about it on TikTok. And I thought, well, if somebody cried, maybe I'll cry. However, I did not cry at this book. But this book was a 4-star. So this book follows a lady called Beth, and she's married to her husband Frank, and they have recently lost, or not recently, but they have lost their child, unfortunately. So this book is split into 3 parts. It's about her past before Frank and her like OG romance. Then it's split into the present, which is there's a court trial, a murder charge, and she's like watching this like court case unfold, and basically I guess like middle-ish past about the events leading up to the court case, and basically how she's now ended up in this trial. It was a really interesting book. My only qualm was I read it, or I listened to it as an audiobook, and I did struggle to discern, especially like right at the start, like the first couple of sentences of chapter, at what point we were at in the story, because it was all, I think it was all, I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was all in first tense, but I don't feel like that's right. I feel like sometimes it was like confusing to know whether we were like at the courthouse, or whether it was like the past but she was still with her husband, or whether it was like pre-husband. Sometimes I did find that confusing, but again, that's not the book's fault, that's just me, unfortunately. That was, again, a 4-star read. I highly recommend it. It was a really interesting book, and again, British. If you want to know what Britain was like in the 1960s, post-war, living on a farm, this is a book for you. It was really interesting. Did I think people crying over this book was a bit extra? Yes, I absolutely did. However, that's my opinion. The last book that I read in Q3 was Twisted Lies by Anna Huang. So this is a book 4 in the Twisted series, which follows a group of 4 friends dating these men. I enjoyed this series, but this book in particular was unfortunately my least favourite in the series. It did still get a 4-star, only because of the epilogue, and I feel like I'm a really big sucker for an epilogue, of like what happens, like a tasteful ending epilogue where it gives enough for you to be like, oh, they did end up happy and everything did kind of work out. I did find Christian and Stella really annoying. One of the annoying things was, and this is actually a spoiler, so like maybe go forward a couple of seconds, I'll put a timestamp in, really stresses me out that she finds a file, reads it, and figures out that he basically knows everything about her. What did you think? The man works in security. You don't think he's going to do his fucking research on a girl that he's dating. I just thought that was a bit far-fetched, and it was a bit silly for her to then fucking throw her toys out the pram. But again, that's my opinion, but I just think it was the right one to have, to be quite fair. Stalker storyline was super interesting, but again, another qualm with that. Let me just go back, and again, spoiler, sorry, so I'll put another timestamp in. I didn't even know who he was, and even when they were like, oh, it's this, this, and this person, I was like, I have no idea who that is. And that really pissed me off. Like, I wish it was like a big character that I was like, stalker, but it was just some fucking random. I think he was like, he went to like uni with her or something. It was really fucking weird. Yeah, that really pissed me off, but the epilogue was great, so I gave it a 4 star. I am actually glad that that series is over, and I have started the King series, I think it's called, and that is so much better. So if you didn't like this, try King of Wrath, because I'm actually enjoying that a lot more than I'm enjoying, than I enjoyed Twisted Lies. Now we get into the DNF section. So I DNF'd 3 books in Q3. The first book I DNF'd was Right Move by Liz Tom Ford. I struggled with Mile High, to be really honest with you. I didn't meld with the characters very well. I don't really know why, but then Right Move follows the main character's brother. I really didn't like that in the first 10% it was like this character moves into this man's apartment, he's like, oh, I hate you, and then his internal monologue is I love you, and I just think that's a bit too early. Like, you just revealed it too early, and I didn't like, it was an audiobook, didn't like the way it sounded in my ears, and I just gave up, to be really frank with you. The next book I read, or DNF'd rather, was The Academy of Villains by the Ever King. Loved the concept, hated the execution. I love enemies to lovers, but I hated the way it was written. I felt like it was written from the perspective of a child. And I know we're young, at the age of 18, but like, come on. I really didn't like the way that this was written, and I did give it a good go. Read about 30% of it, and then I was like, I cannot take another sentence of this book, and I had to close it. The third and final DNF of Q3 was Daughter of Water by A.S. Stamped. I was intrigued by the magic, and I was disappointed at the execution. I'm not a particular fan of timestamps in books, and this book was heavily timestamped of we woke up, we went to sleep. We woke up, we spoke, had breakfast, went somewhere, went to sleep. I couldn't actually carry on. And that was all 15 books that, or rather 12 books that I read in Q3. And I'll see you again soon. And maybe for the Q4 wrapped up eventually. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one.